Hey everybody, welcome to the Colorado Knits video cast. My name is Carrie, otherwise known as Colorado Knits, and today is Friday, December 30th, 2022. Thanks for joining me on my crafty adventures. If you're new here, thanks for checking me out. I live outside of Denver with my husband and 3 dogs, and I knit, crochet, and do some other crafts and stuff and video cast upon occasion. If you're returning, thanks for coming back. I will talk about Vlogmas in a minute because I totally abandoned it for a myriad of reasons. But thanks for joining me today. You can find me. You can email me at hello@coloradoknits.net. You can contact me on Instagram at Colorado Knits, Ravelry at Colorado Knits, and hello@coloradoknits.net. Did I say that? That's my email. Website is coloradoknits.net. I try to keep it somewhat updated. Try to with my projects and stuff. I'm a little bit behind. But with that, welcome and thanks for joining me. I have no clue what episode it is, but it said right before this, so you know what episode it is. And I'm gonna get right into it. We'll start with all the crafty goodness. I will mention Vlogmas. So I did Vlogmas for about a third of the month, and I got bored with myself. Like opening gifts, I like watching other people open gifts, but for me to sit here and open all these advents, I had just this feeling of immense consumerism. And a little background, about 7 years ago, we were in a horrible financial place and really, really struggling. So I feel so fortunate now that like if I see a countdown kit I want, I can order it and pay for it and it's not an issue, but it still leaves me with a little guilt. And as I was, a couple of these were trades and one was a gift, but I spent a lot of money on these countdowns and I just started to feel guilty and that's no fun. So I just decided to stop and just kind of take in a little bit more of the season. It was also about that time my husband's like, hey, are we going to have a tree? Are we going to do any of the holiday type things? And we did. So nothing really exciting to share. I want to thank my swap partners. First of all, I want to thank Laura from Always Be Kind Yarn, who gifted me an Advent swap, which was amazing, an Advent kit. I would like to thank Laura from Slip Stitch Studios because she put together a super fun countdown kit this year. And Katie from Katrinkles, I still have one more to open because hers was a month-long New Year's countdown. And my last one is personalized. I'm really excited to open it tomorrow. And then my swap partners who were Jennifer Studdy out, and she gave me a fantastic swap set that I've been knitting, sort of. And then Jennifer Green, who gave me, first of all, if you watch any of my Vlogmas, I'm like, I don't know what this yarn is. Jennifer Green, I am so sorry because she put little tags in each gift bag and I did not see them. So she very clearly labeled everything. So thank you. I still don't know what I'm going to do. I have an idea of what I'm going to do with her yarn. So it was really fun, but it was kind of overwhelming to me this year. And I don't know if that's just 2022, new job, whatever it is. I think next year, all I really want is a sock. Like one of those 24 stripe socks or 12 stripe socks or whatever. I just feel like I want to make it a little simpler. I didn't gift knit. I still need to make 12 dishcloths for my best friend. So I got to get shaken on that. But I don't know. It just didn't feel, it felt consumery and not celebratory. So just like even my husband's like, what do you want for Christmas? And I didn't want anything. So it's all good. And that's not to say if you didn't want or need something for Christmas, if you got it, that's what I love. I bought my husband stuff for Christmas. I loved buying my husband stuff for Christmas. It was so fun to go shopping for him. I bought him bourbon, which is like a muggle buying one of us yarn. It's a crapshoot. And it looked good on the shelf. Like I read about it and I kind of looked at it and it wasn't cheap and it wasn't expensive. And then I gave it to him and he was so excited when he got it. He opened it up, he Googled it, and he was just like, this is really good bourbon and this and this and this. And so he was excited about it. And that was like so fun to give him that gift. So what I bought myself for Christmas, let's get into crafting. You can see her over there, Pinky Tuscadero. Raise your hand if you know what that's a reference to. Pinky and Leather Tuscadero. That is my Dean and Bean sock machine, which was my gift to myself. I ordered it in September, and my friend Cindy ordered one, and Laura ordered one. And we waited for them to come, and Laura got hers first because she ordered hers in like July or August, and she cranked out some tubes and got me really excited. And then mine came, and I let it sit for like 2 or 3 weeks before I even took it out of the box, because I was so like, I need to commit to doing this. I follow them on Facebook, Dean and Bean, and all these people are like, oh, this is so hard, this is so hard. So I was nervous and wanted to make sure I committed time, because everything's muscle memory. I mean, think about the first time you turned a heel on a sock, or did a wrap and turn or a German short row. They're not hard. They're just muscle memory, or casting on. Casting on is the hardest thing in knitting, I'm convinced. So I wanted to be able to commit time to it. So I did. And it was not difficult, but not easy, and frustrating at times, of course. And I had to sort of the AA, let go and let God. And like, it's okay if the sock isn't perfect. I think about the first socks I hand knit, and they are far from perfect. These are far from perfect too. But it was super fun to make them. So with that, I'm gonna segue straight into my machine knit socks. This is my first machine knit sock that I made. And I have a string I have to tuck in. And this is Osterman Step, I want to say. The tag's over there, but I'm not sure. And it's not perfect at all, but I made it a shorty because I cranked like 20 grams and totally screwed up and blah, blah, blah. And I did an afterthought heel, but I hung my hems, which, if you know me, that's how I like my hems to be folded these days. And the afterthought heel is not great, but it's not bad. I have a perfect sock recipe that I have figured out from my years of sock knitting. So I was like, this is great. I know exactly where to cut in the heel, except I read my own recipe wrong and measured wrong. I measured the length for the top, not the foot. So one of them is a little long, but I made a pair of them, and they don't take very long. They take me like 10 minutes to crank. And then I have to do the toes and the heels, which that's like an hour. So still not very long to crank a sock. So I got a pair of shorties, and Osterman has aloe in it. So it's woolly when you start knitting with it. It's like a 75-25, but the yarn's treated with aloe. And then as you wear them, they just soften up. And so I'm excited for these, and they go above my ankles, and they're great little boot socks. So not perfect, but that's okay. So the next one I did, also, I'd like to say this was actually the second pair of socks I did. This was not the first tube I cranked. And I learned something from Tracy of the Grocery Girls. When you do a tube on a sock machine, this is probably boring if you have one, or maybe you don't give a patooey about a sock machine. You have the option, you can hang a hem at the beginning, which is really easy. And then you can hang a hem at the end, which is a little more difficult. And it's just like when I do my socks toe up with a folded hem, it's a little harder to bind off because you want to make sure there's stretch in it. And sometimes I don't make them stretchy enough. So I did a tube using some of my Simply Socks Yarn Company. I showed this a couple of weeks ago, probably during Vlogmas maybe. And they have produced their first set of self-patterning, self-striping yarns. And this is their house brand, Simply Socks Yarn Company, out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. I don't know the name of this, but the colors were sort of in my wheelhouse, but not my favorites. Anything with brown is never going to be my favorite. So I decided I'm going to use this because if I totally screw it up, it's not a big loss to me. They're sending me 3 skeins a month for 3 months. This was the second set, and these colors were good, but the first set were like primo, so I want to be good on my sock machine before I crank those out. So I cranked a super long tube. I used 65 grams of 100 gram skein, and then added on heels and toes. So I cranked a long tube, cut it in half, put in the toes, and then figured out where the heels went. This is my 4th or 5th ever afterthought heel, and the second I did in a day. And it's so much better. You can see it there. There's still I still have to do some gapping stuff, fixing my gaps. But I love it. And it's a perfectly good sock. And it matches my alpaca sweater that I plan to wear. So, I'm really happy with how these turned out. You can do heels on the sock machine. I just don't have a need to right now. I'm going to try them. But the reason I bought the sock machine was because I have two they're not 60 gallon, they're 40 gallon Rubbermaids of sock yarn that is no longer in my wheelhouse, or I have no clue why I bought it, or it was a gift, or is in a grab bag or whatever. And all I want to do is crank a bunch of tubes so that I can make gifting socks for people. So just having the tube, even if I cut it in half and do the toes, I can figure out where to put in the heels or whatever. But I started on a thread there, totally tangented. Tracy of the Grocery Girls, she hates doing the bottom hemmed hung hem. And to give you an idea, because it comes out, that's not the second one, comes out, you have a weird, funky, you have to have this kind of, you have an extra stitch there as opposed to, no, that's the other one, as opposed to a super, is this it? I don't know. No, that's definitely the other one. As opposed to a little bit cleaner hem there. You can see there's like nothing on that hem. It's just sewn in. So she does not like doing the bottom ones. So what she does, she hangs a top hem. They're all top hems technically. She hangs a hem, does her tube, puts on waste yarn, hangs a second hem, and knits the rest of the tube. So you're never doing what I think of as being the bottom, even though technically maybe it's the top. You're never doing that second one where you have to pick up some stitches and do sort of like an extra bind off instead of knitting two together. So I love that idea, and that's what I did on my shorty socks, and it was just so much more fun to crank out that way. So that's what I plan to do today. Today is my next to last day of vacation, and I have another skein of the Simply Socks Yarn Company yarn. This is 65 grams. I took off 35 for heels, toes, and cuffs, which is too much, but that's all right. And I'm going to work on that. And I'm thinking I might try a different type of heel. I might try a star heel or something that's a little more rounded, just to try them to see how they fit. Can't do it if you don't try it. So I'm going to pick up my sock blocker that I just threw. That's my machine knitting. These do count towards, what is the pigskin party, I believe. I don't know how they count. I think probably half as much, even though I did a bit of heels and toes on them, but probably half as much. So I have to enter those for pigskin party. And then I also knit 2 pair hand knit socks, holiday socks. And I love them. As you may have seen in previous podcasts and on Instagram, I started these Thanksgiving weekend when we went to watch football. This is West Yorkshire Spinners in the Hollyberry colorway. This, I have a funked up cuff, but when it's on your leg, you can't tell. I do these toe up. And so when I do my hem, I have to, if you want it to have stretch, you either have to knit very loosely, you fold over the cuff and pick up, and where I made my mistake on this one is I picked up where there were white where the colors matched. And so I was having trouble picking up, as opposed to this one where I was smart enough to stop where there was a solid color. So there was a good line delineation. And what I learned to make it stretchier, and I learned this from the sock machine, is I pick up the stitches. I have a stitch on my needle, and then I pick up a stitch from the sock hem, from the lower part of the sock, knit them together, yarn, pass the stitch over, just like you're doing a regular bind off, do a yarn over, pass that stitch over, so you're like knitting one with a yarn over, knitting one, so there's a space between, and it is a million times cleaner and stretchier. So it's great. And so thank you, Dean and Bean, for that little sweet trick. And I finished these Christmas morning, maybe, just because I had to do the hem on them, and I waited to do the hem on them. So they got one wearing. And then my other pair of socks is a Charlie Brown Christmas, which these are year-round socks, as much as they were inspired by a Charlie Brown Christmas. This is by East Coast Yarns, and these are Kool-Aid dyed, and the heel is a Kool-Aid dyed mini from Always Be Kind Yarn from years ago when she started dyeing with Kool-Aid. So I love these. Again, this is my toe-up sock recipe. I've figured out the perfect length. And I use a Fishless Lips Kiss heel. And then, like I said, I fold the cuff down. So I did a lot of socks, and I plan to do a lot of socks. Right now, all of my yarn, if you've been with me a little while, you may know I had moths in my old house. And so I mothballed all my yarn. I tried freezing. I tried all these things, and I finally was like, all right, better living through chemistry. Mothballed my yarn, put them in the Rubbermaid tins. Well, they're not tins, bins. Put all of my knitwear in there, and mothballs are awful. So right now, my yarn is sitting outside on our balcony, and I keep going outside and tossing it, like turning it, to get the mothballs to dissolve, because they dissolve when they're in the air, because they're supposed to dissolve after 3 months, but after being in those bins, they did not dissolve at all. So they're going to stay outside for a couple of weeks, and then I will have clean yarn. Oh, Brooky's getting in the trash. I'll have some clean yarn that I can crank into a bunch of tubes and get just used, and I can enter 2023 hopefully being slightly more mindful in my purchases, circling back to why Vlogmas kind of disappointed myself. So other things, this isn't going to be that long of a podcast, I don't think. Rook is killing me. She's just going around sniffing everything. I totally, as you can tell, I redid my craft room a little so that I had room for my table. I will tell you, when you have a sock machine, it is best to cone your yarn. So this yarn from Simply Socks has been coming in balls, I guess. They're skeins. They're skeins. And so they're great. They're center pull. You could do that. But what I found is the best way for me to knit them off the machine is to swift it up and then wind it onto a cone. My rotator cuff, I found out, doesn't like me swifting my yarn, because the best way to swift it is to do this, and then I crank it onto the tube. And sometimes I crank it onto the tube twice to make sure that it's even and things like that. I'm getting better at that. But my rotator cuff didn't like that, which isn't good. So, and I knew that right away. A former swimmer, I knew when to stop when I had that discomfort in my rotator cuff. So that limited how much I could crank. And then my knitting's been slightly limited because my tendonitis in my elbow, golfer's elbow, is back with a vengeance. I just ordered a new tendonitis brace. I couldn't find my old one, and then I found it after I ordered a new one. But I have to be careful when I'm knitting. I have to not... It's really easy for me to just sit there for hours. And this started when I was doing a test knit. I just was like obsessed with it and wanted to get it finished and gave myself tendonitis. And the only way to get rid of tendonitis really is rest, dry needling, some physical therapy. But the big thing is rest. And I can feel it in my fingers when I stretch my fingers out and things. So trying not to knit too much. The sock machine, that's good, except again, I'm doing this to wind my yarn. So I'm going to be, so bad. I'm going to be ordering some cones of yarn for like my waist yarn and my heels and toes that I may try on the machine. I'm going to order some yarn from Yarnia in Portland, who specializes in, they don't sell hanks or skeins, they sell cones at very moderate prices. So also when I get those cones, I'll have more cones on which I can wind. I do have a cone winder, and I may buy a different one. It's lovely, it's handmade, but it's also very basic. And I'm thinking that if I had one that had a gear instead of a pulley, that my arm might be happier, because it's got some friction and some tension and it's hard. So instead of complaining about my injuries, there are so many, I am going to show you what I've been knitting. So I started my weekender using Knit Picks Brava. As you may remember, I went a little crazy at the Knit Picks big sale. I bought a ton of cotton and I bought a ton of acrylic and acrylic blends. And this is acrylic, but this is like the softest acrylic. Sometimes I get a little squeak in it, but it is so soft and cute. And I joke that this is my blood splatter sweater. It's depending on the light. That's what it looks like. But it's a light pink / cream base, white almost, with lots of pink speckles. Looks kind of peachy in this light. And I'm doing The Weekender by Andrea Mowry. And you knit it, quote, inside out. You knit it so you're doing all the knits. And then you get this lovely detail with slip stitches, which I don't think I've even really missed many of them, except for that one right there. I have 2 more inches on the body before I have to split for front and back and then add in the sleeves. I love this sweater. It's mindless, it's easy. It's got a tubular cast on and bind off, which are, I love how those feel and look. And I complain about doing them, but I actually really love them. They're not difficult. The thing, I decided you're supposed to cast on with a needle 2 sizes smaller than your body. So I started doing that, and then you go up 1 size for the ribbing and then another size for the body. And I started that and realized I kind of like how this is. I feel like if I go up another size, it's going to be too big. So I stayed with it, but now my ribbing looks a little big. I'm sure that will block out, meaning wash and dry out, because it's acrylic. But I only went up 1 needle size overall. I have made, this is the 4th weekender I've made, 1 I gave away. And I still, even though I swatch and stuff, I'm still not sure what needle I should be using. Then the other 2 projects I've been working on, again, just not knitting a whole ton. This is my Habitation Throw by Helen Stewart, Curious Handmade, using Jen Studies Advent that she sent me, the 24 10-gram minis. And I'm really only about 9 or 10 in. And she actually sent me 28, I think, because she sent me 4 other minis that I'm going to add in. So I'm cruising on this, but I mean, again, mindless knit, but I'm just not knitting very much. And finally, in terms of yarn crafts, that's my pattern, I don't want to misplace that. I am making a baby blanket for one of my colleagues, and I realized it's January in 2 days and her baby's due in February, so I'd better get cranking on this. And I am doing the box stitch baby blanket using Lion brand Feels Like Butter and Ferris wheel. And the Ferris wheel is that contrast color you can see. And it goes from kind of a brownish, a grayish brown, all the way to this fuchsia. And it's a very simple box stitch, pretty mindless. I am not cutting my yarn. I'm just carrying up the color up the back. Feels Like Butter. Again, you know this is all going to be acrylic because it's baby. And my friend is crafty. She's DIY crafty, but she is not a yarn crafter. So definitely never giving her wool. Like, that's me. If they're not a knitter, that's just kind of mean. But also it's so soft. It's ridiculous. So this is a really fun crochet pattern. I am very much thinking about turning this into doing something very similar to this with Jen Green's swap that she sent me. I hope to finish this up this week. This is in a bag from Target from the Dollar Spot. This $5 wasn't really a dollar spot. And hoping to finish that up maybe this next week. It's ridiculously addictive once you start working on it. My problem was my skein of Feels Like Butter was all knotted inside, like kept trying to find the inside, trying to find the inside, and it was just yarn barf everywhere. So I went ahead and rolled it into a ball. That's great, but when I'm sitting on my big blue chair with my dog downstairs, the ball is kind of a pain in the butt to use. So yes, I could just grab another one of my skeins that's behind me and find the center or pull from the outside, but no, I'm using this too tightly wound ball instead. I'm just making excuses why it's a pain. But it's fun. I love crochet. I love how fast crochet is. I love baby blankets and crochet are awesome. I'm not a mom. You can comment below if you tell me I'm wrong. My friend loved it because as her baby grew, she's like, she loves the little holes in it to put her fingers through as she was starting to get dexterity. And then someone else is like, oh, that's a horrible thing. And I don't know if it's a horrible thing or not. If you just want to make the baby blanket and put it on the side of the bed and make it look cute, you know, when one of my best friends was having a baby, I made the baby a blanket, and then I made the mom a nursing blanket. So when she got up in the middle of the night and she was cold, she had a blanket. I don't know. I just think they're cute and simple, and it uses color without being overly colorful because she has a very muted color palette. So that's all the yarn crafting I am doing. I do have a skein sitting here on my desk. We had a new brewery open down the road from us. We're so excited, and we've already made good friends with the owners. I'm very proud to say I was the first knitter, and then Nikki, one of the owners, got very excited at my knitting the more she watched me knit. And she said, you know, I would trade beer for socks. And my husband's like, you know that sock yarn is like $30 a skein. And she puts in hours and hours of work. And I was like, hush, hush, hush. Their colors are teal. Their main colors are teal and like cream for their brewery. Her favorite color is teal. And so I'm going to make her a pair of socks on the machine when I'm more proficient and do heels and toes myself, hand do those again as I do more practice. But I was 99% sure I had to have some teal yarn in there, and I have this, I don't know how old this is, but it is Lorna's Laces Shepherd Socks, and as you may know, Lorna's Laces is no longer dying. This Lorna's Laces was my first ever sock yarn, so it's a very special yarn to me. And this is Splattershot in Islas Muertes, and it is teal. The lighting's hard to get it to read accurately, but it's teal with, it looks like a beach. It's got teal, it's got sand. Looking forward, that's better. Looking forward to mastering my Dean and Bean so that I can do this to give to her. And of course get some free beers in return, but that's not really why. It's kind of nice. We used to be friends with owners of a couple of different breweries, and when we've moved, they're now too far away to be friends with them, not to be friends, but to see them on a regular basis. So it's nice to have something close to us that we can call our regular place. I joked that I was going to be in every day on my days off, and I haven't been, but that's okay. And then the other thing I did, Laura from Slip Stitch Studios, one of her countdown gifts was a Diamond Dots Notions case or pencil case, whatever, super cute. And you did the diamond painting, and it was for, I think it was for Thursday the 21st or Friday. No, it was Thursday the 21st, I think. And that day at work was super, super slow. So I just sat around answering Slacks, answering emails, and I did this, which of course got me hooked on diamond painting. It is like, I'm totally smitten with it. So then, of course, that weekend we had to go to Michael's and I had to get some diamond painting because it was on sale, buy one, get one free or something. And so I had to get a beginner one because the thought of all the different little pieces of plastic, I love and hate this because of all the plastics. But I did one anyway and it was super fun. I did this yesterday. I listened to a book and did this cute little thing, and I've got a frame coming on the way. And then I have another one I will be doing, which is a Van Gogh interpretation of Fields of Wheat, which will go somewhere in here. So that's what's going on in my life. Watching. Have to say, if you have Apple TV Plus, two things you need to watch. If you have Apple TV Plus, Acapulco. Absolutely such an adorable show. Everybody raves about Ted Lasso. Acapulco is Ted Lasso without the language. Like, it's just, it's a feel good, just wonderful story. It's quirky. If you lived through the 80s as a young adult, it has an 80s score and soundtrack that is just remarkable, and it's just such a cute show. So 2 thumbs up. I'm not a person who like laughs out loud at stuff. I find myself laughing at that a ton. And then this is, again, if you have a premium subscription or whatever, NFL Network did an NFL 360 on American football clubs in Ukraine. So for years, there have been Ukrainians playing American football. It's very popular around the world, in Europe, and they somehow got in touch with these teams who the men on the teams went off to fight in Ukraine to defend their nation. And Kyle Brandt of Good Morning Football, I don't watch the morning shows, I watch Good Morning Football. It's not as good since Nate and Kay left, but it's okay. Kyle Brandt, who worked for the NFL on their morning show, went and didn't go to Ukraine, but started being sort of pen pals with these men and learning about their history and their families. And they're so young. They're all so young, and they're fighting for their freedom. And it is heart-wrenching. You meet the families, you meet the men, you go through them losing people. And it's just unfathomable to me of what the people of Ukraine are going through. We are nearly a year into this war where their sovereign nation was invaded. And we talk about here in the US, we talk about our freedom, and I need my freedom, and I should be able to carry a gun, and I should be able to do this and do that. Until you actually have to pick up that gun and defend your family and defend your city. The way these young men just pick up and go, and women join too. That's not being sexist, but it follows a bunch of men and their families. And just, it was heart-wrenching and wonderful. And yes, we were all crying while we watched it. But if you can see that, maybe eventually the NFL will put it on their YouTube channel. I don't know. It was a stellar piece. And really, just don't forget what's going on in Ukraine. Like I said, it's been 10 months. And they made it through this holiday season without power, with, the Capitol being just blitzed. And it's something that we have never seen in our lifetime. My coworker moved from Bosnia as a child because there was a civil war there. And I just feel I'm so fortunate that, as craptastic as our politics are in this country, and as divided as we are, we're literally not at war. So when people are like, we've got to go to war for our rights, until you've seen something like this, you have no idea. I have no idea. I'm not saying I do. But if you can see that, take a look at it. Maybe there's even just snippets of it on YouTube. If I can find something, I'll link it on my website. It was just phenomenal. And I love, my husband afterward is like, so how do I help these people? Where do I donate? And I used to work in the culinary industry. So he's like, how do I get Jose Andres money for World Central Kitchen? So World Central Kitchen, UNICEF, There's a lot of Doctors Without Borders. There's a lot of really good charities doing a lot of really great work. So, you know, as you celebrate with your families, and this is not to be a downer, and as we move up on Orthodox Christmas, you know, think about what's going on in Eastern Europe. And, you know, I'm more grateful every day, as like I said, as divided as we are and as stupid as our politics are, we're safe. You know, we had this freezing cold snap last week. You know, it was awful. It was really, really cold. But I had a roof. I had power. I wasn't sleeping in my car. I had food. You know, I had a car, so if we lost power, I could charge my phone. I could communicate with people. I'm so fortunate, and I know that. But, you know, as we were going through Vlogmas, I'm like, what is gluttony and what is excess? And I personally felt, again, this is not you, I felt completely gluttonous and felt like I need to be more cognitive, mindful of myself and what I spend money on, and do I need something or do I just want it? And what I've learned about myself is I want a lot of stuff, and then when it gets here, I absolutely don't want it and don't need it. I am like the click pay for it, like instant gratification. Like, yeah, that gives me a buzz. And then like I said, I didn't open my sock machine that I tracked every single day for 12 weeks. I didn't even open it when it arrived. I was like, cool, it's here. And like, I go on my informed delivery every day and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have any packages coming. I don't care what actually arrives. It's just that thought of getting something. I'm such a dork. So that's my growing edge for 2023. Do I really need that? And I am trying to, you know, that's my whole thought. Get that yarn out of here. Buy sweater quantities if that's what I want. If I see a great skein, actually use the great skein. So that's my sort of deep thought. Hopefully Ted Lasso comes soon because we have finished Acapulco. And I'm watching New Girl. I never watched New Girl when it was on. And it's super cute. So that's sort of my other dirty little secret is when the man is gone, I watch holiday movies. Awful, awful holiday movies. CBS now has a whole string of them, and they're exactly like Hallmark movies. They even have the same actors and stuff in them, but slightly less schmaltzy and slightly more diverse. And then last night we were turning on Apple TV on our TV, and I found out that Vizio has an entire holiday movie channel, and I kind of hope that it's maybe available year-round. I'm the worst that way. So, that's what's going on here. I don't have a whole lot of deep thoughts. I mean, I had them, but I hope you had a great 2022. Looking back, 2022, I guess you could say every year everybody's like, oh, it was awful. 2022 wasn't awful for us. There were ups and downs like there always are, but I had a good year, and I feel good going into 2023. I think New Year's is very arbitrary. I am getting a new mini gym delivered. Half of it is being delivered today. I'm being held hostage by Federal Express. The FedEx does not give you a delivery window. It just says today by the end of business day. And I have to sign for it, and it's 90 pounds. So it's not, I'm just getting some dumbbells and stuff. But I have to be here for it. Otherwise, I have to wait and I have to pick it up, and I'm not picking up 90 pounds. No. The guy's going to bring it to the porch, and then I'm going to tear apart the box and bring it in the house or whatever. But I'm held hostage by FedEx because anytime between now and end of business day, and there's snow on the ground here, so end of business day could be like 8 or 9 o'clock. Usually he either comes at 11 or 4. So I'm hoping it's 11, and then maybe I'll go to the brewery and see my friends. But if it's 4, I will sit upstairs today and do some socks. But as I was starting to say, New Year's is so arbitrary, but it's like, I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to do this and that. Do what you need to do. If that's a day that helps you kickstart something new, but it doesn't have to be New Year's. I don't have any resolutions. I ordered the gym because I had a big coupon because people do arbitrary things like that on New Year's. And I saved $200 on it. So that was my Christmas gift. I said that was my Christmas gift, but my husband bought me the gym. So that's, yeah, I'm going to wait for FedEx to come to ring in the new year. We'll go to the brewery this afternoon, I think, when my husband gets off work, and just celebrate a good year. And here's to next year. I hope life treats you well. Knit your yarn, drink your bourbon. They do you no good on their shelves. And spread kindness like confetti, because that shit gets in everything and you'll never be able to vacuum it all up. Have a great day, everybody. Have a great New Year's. Be safe, be healthy, and I'll be back in the new year, maybe to wrap up what I really enjoyed knitting in 2022, or maybe not. I don't know. That's so far ahead. All right, take care.